afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the second meeting here at the Incubate Center. This is our community meeting to talk about the relocation of the wastewater plant. I'm Javier Cisneros, the Director of Utilities for FPUA, and I'm here with the leadership team, again, to talk about the relocation of the wastewater plant. Before I get started with the presentation, we'll have a quick presentation and then we'll go through some example bills and then we'll open up for questions. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to thank the staff here at the Incubate Center. Jackie and Ms. Gardner and all the staff here. If you get a chance to talk to them, please thank them. They've done a fantastic job with this facility. And it's pretty impressive. I was here about a year and a half ago and I saw what they had to start with and where we're at today. So they've done a great job. I also like to take a moment to thank the FPUA staff here in the audience today. We have Shantae, Sarita, Stacy, Mike, Wanda, William, and Melissa. So those, all of the staff here was here to help us today to put on this event. So next, what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce you to the leadership team. First, we have Mr. Bo Hutchinson. He's the Director of Wastewater Systems. He's a licensed professional engineer with just over 20 years of public service here at FPUA, and he is the project lead for the design and construction of this plant. So Mr. Hutchinson is just to my right here. Next, we have Rachel Tennant. She's the Sustainability Program Manager, and with over 10, 15 years of public service, her responsibilities include business development, sustainability, and grant administration, which is an important part of this project. She's also currently in law school. Next, we have Mr. Daniel Rutherford. He's the Director of Utility Support Services. He's also a licensed professional engineer with over 25 years of private and public service in our community. And last but not least, we have Barbara Micah. She's the Director of Financial and Administrative Services, and she's a certified government financial official with over 18 years of public service at FPUA. And all roads eventually lead to her office, so she's an important part of our team. Again, this is the second meeting we've had at this center to talk about the relocation of the plant. And the reason I mention that is because this coming Monday, I really want to emphasize this, is that this coming Monday, May 16th, at City Chambers, the City Commission will be voting on the rate adjustments required to do this project. So hopefully, our intention today is to be as transparent as possible. We are a government entity, so we have to abide by all Florida sunshine laws and open public meeting requirements. So we want to be as transparent with you as possible and try to communicate with you so that you have as much information that you would like to have in the event that you would like to voice your support or your concerns about this project. We are happy to be here and we do appreciate your interest and concern about this project. And I'd like to take a moment to mention the Commission, specifically Commissioner Curtis Johnson. One of the things that FPUA does really well is we provide utility services to our community, and we have for a long time. This is our 50th year anniversary. One of the things that we don't do well is we don't communicate well with the public, and this is our honest attempt to be able to do that. And some of the discussions that we had with Commissioner Johnson are, what are you doing? How are you communicating with the public? And he was right. So he was a catalyst behind the first meeting and the second meeting, and many more meetings moving forward. And we're excited about hosting future events at this site. So thank you to Commissioner Johnson. Next, so FPUA belongs to you. So why does FPUA exist? FPUA was chartered, so the city of Fort Pierce provided utility services under the direct mandate of the city. In 1972, we were chartered by the ratepayers, by the citizens of Fort Pierce to become an enterprise fund directly under the city, but to operate separately from the city government and politics so they could operate as a business. And I think it's important to note that charter also included a yearly transfer to the city. And this year we were able to transfer around $6.5 million to the city of Fort Pierce. And we do that every year. And that makes up about 12 to 15%, depending on the year of their budget. So we do give back. My point being is that FPUA is a non-for-profit organization. So whatever it takes for us to do our capital plan, our O&M plan, we reinvest into our system, and we provide a yearly transfer to the city of Fort Pierce. And more importantly, I work for you. I work for the city of Fort Pierce. I work for the FPUA board, and I work for the ratepayers. All of us do. So we're happy to be here to talk about this project. So why move the wastewater plant? We do have a new state law that requires us to upgrade the existing plant to be up to par with new regulatory requirements. That investment is about $16 million. So what we've done is we've been able to delay those upgrades at the existing plant because we've discussed with the state that we do have a plan to relocate it. We've been talking about this project for just about 20 years. And it always starts and ends with how much will it cost. So, so if we do not move it, we will have to upgrade it. So we're trying to use that $16 million in the new plant, which accounts for about 15% of the new cost of the new plant. And one of the things we want to avoid is we want to avoid upgrading the existing plant, because if and when, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the state makes us relocate the plant, that $16 million will be a stranded asset. We won't be able to take that with us because that'll be part of the technology that's there. So again, we're trying our best to make sure we reduce costs now and in the future. And it's also important for us to recognize that the Indian River Lagoon is an important resource for our community. We live here, we play here, we fish here, so it's something we have to protect. And again, that is an initiative from the state, and that's something that we also are very concerned with. So a question that we get often is, where is it going? So you'll see on the screen here that the yellow star is where the existing plant is now, the yellow star at the top right. The new location will be at the bottom left of the screen there. So currently, the top yellow star is on the island. Most of you guys will see it every time you go over the bridge. The new location will be far away from neighborhoods, far away from anybody. Once it goes there, you'll likely never see it again. It's next to our 300 megawatt gas plant, and that most of you probably have never seen. So it'll be right next door to that. And it'll be an industrial area, again, away from any residents. And just as importantly, it'll be away from the Indian River Lagoon. So what steps are we taking to keep costs low? The land that the new wastewater plant will be going to, we bought a long time ago, so it's going on existing public land. Again, it's next to our power plant. The new technology will be built with, the new wastewater plant will be built with new technology, and it'll be a much more efficient design. And one of the things that we're excited about for the new plant is that the O&M cost for operating the plant, specifically the electric costs, are expected to be around 40% lower. So we'll immediately save costs. What that translates to savings to the customer, to our ratepayers. And it's important if the state is telling us that we're on their short list, and I failed to mention that, but we are on the short list of 10 wastewater plants on the Indian River Lagoon that have been identified by the state. We're on that list. If they're forcing us to move it, we're asking them to help us to move it, to offset costs, so that we can help keep rates low for our customers. One of the things that we look at, personally, we'll look at a 5 to 10 year window, but from a public utility standpoint, we have to look at a 50-year window, because that's the way utilities operate. And the idea there is, when we look at a 50-year window, we're looking at the cost today and the cost tomorrow, and trying to make sure we make the best decision to keep costs low. So some of the other benefits we've talked about already are protecting the Indian River Lagoon. We live here, we play here, it's a precious resource, so we want to protect the lagoon. Once the existing plant has been demoed, the existing site, once the existing site is demoed, that land will be cleared, and the idea there is that we would have an opportunity for new public access to the water along the existing boundary of the wastewater plant. And the idea there would be, once the property is turned over back to the city, that they would work on an opportunity for both some new resources for the community and an opportunity to do some development there. So, and with that development, the idea there is that they would bring in some high-paying jobs. Again, that's something that once the plan is demoed, it would go over to the city for them to work on developing that property. Before we get into questions, what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn it over to Rachel, and Rachel's going to go through a couple of sample bills that'll detail what these rate adjustments mean to you as the consumer.
Okay, so thanks, Avi. So one of the things we're talking about here, we're talking about moving the wastewater plant off of Hutchinson Island over to Energy Lane, which is next to the existing power plant that's over there. And this is something we're gonna have to pay for. So that's what's coming to vote on Monday, is the changes to our rates in order for us to pay for moving the wastewater plant off of Hutchinson Island over to Energy Lane. What we have found is that it's been kind of challenging for us to talk about how it will impact the rates, because we are a single utility company that offers 4 different utility services. So when we talk about our utilities, we're talking about electricity, gas, water, and wastewater. And if you look at your one bill, depending on which utility services that you have in your home or at your business, how you are affected by any rate changes will vary depending on which services you have at your home or your business and how much of those services that you use. So on Monday, what we'll be talking about are increases to gas and electric that have to do only with gas and electric projects. Those are things like expanding our gas base, expanding our electric, doing automated meter infrastructure. So there'll be a little bit of that. And what we're talking about is water and wastewater, which includes both expansion projects so that we can increase our customer base for water and wastewater, and also includes moving the wastewater plant. So there's a couple different percentages depending on which utility service we're talking about and which updates we're talking about. So all we're doing is skip all of those percentage conversations and get it very confusing. We're going to look at exact bills. So we have a sample of 5 different bills here. These are actual customer bills for this month. And we'll look at their bill for this month and what their bill will be after the changes to the rates. And the way we're looking at doing the rate changes is in 2 steps. So there'll be a smaller one, there'll be one in July and one in October. So that is half and half rather than doing all of them at the same time. The example bills go straight to October. So all we're doing is looking at the very end in October, what exactly are we talking about when we talk about rate changes. So the 5 sample bills that we're going to look at here, there's a multifamily building. So this is one of 2 units, a little over 1,600 square feet, built in 1984. We'll look at 2 houses. The first house that we look at has put in a lot of the upgrades to their home for efficiencies, things like insulation, changing their windows, which is something that has been coming up a lot as we're having these conversations, because your electric bill specifically can be heavily impacted by the insulation or the efficiencies that are put in your home. So this one has some of those. And then we'll look at 2 small businesses. And then after that, we'll switch. I'm going to give it back to Avi. So I'm going to click next, but just give me 1 second to orient you to the bill slides. Okay, so this is the first one. What we're looking at here, up on the top yellow, is the building. So this is the multifamily 2 units. So we're looking at one of 2 units, 1984 build. Over here is their consumption. So their bill will vary depending on what their consumption is, electric, gas, water, whatever. And then this is the bill. And this is the change to the bill with the rate changes that we're talking about on Monday. So this person has electricity and water. They're using 609 kilowatt hours of electricity, 3,000 gallons of water. Right now, their electric bill is $88.03. In July, there would be a $1.32 increase, $1.32, and in October, $1.26. So their total change to their electric would be $2.59. Their total change to their water would be $6.16. So you can see that the water impact is a little bit higher because we are looking at a bigger change to water and wastewater to help pay for to move the wastewater plant. Electric and gas, that doesn't apply. So the increases that you'll see on those will be smaller. Okay, so this person's bill will change $8.74, which is 7.4% of their total bill after October. This house is the one with the extra efficiencies. So they're in the Lincoln Park area. They have all 4 services. So they're using 441 kilowatt hours of electricity, 7.9 CCF of gas, and 3,000 gallons of water and wastewater each. Their electric service will go up by $2.05 with the impact. So 65.62 to 67.67. Their gas will be impacted $2.47. Their water will be $6.15, and their wastewater will be $7.07. So their total impact will be $17.75, which is an 11.2% impact on their overall bill after. And I think one of the important things that we're trying to convey in all of these conversations is that this has to be done in order to move the wastewater plant. I don't think anybody likes to have these conversations, but it's something that's really that's essential in order for us to move the wastewater plant, which is something that's we've been put on the short list. So that's why we're having all of these conversations, and that's why this is happening. The next one is a 1969 build. It's a little bit bigger of a house, so 2,000 square feet in Paradise Park. They have electric, gas, and water. But if you look, they're actually using quite a bit of all three. So they're using about 1,300 kilowatt hours of electric, 26 CCF of gas, and 9,000 gallons of water. So all of those are kind of highish. So the electric bill is $190.75, and their impact will be $5.52. Their gas is $54.85 currently, and will be impacted $3.98. And their water is $54.79, and will be impacted $11.51. So the total impact of this bill is $21.01, which is 6.9%. And then the last two sample bills that we have here are the small businesses. So this is a small business that's in downtown Fort Pierce. Their electric is a little higher, so they're at just under 1,500 kilowatt hours of electric, and then water and wastewater is 3,000 each. The electric is currently $235.39, and it will be impacted $7.48. And the water is going to be $29.32 and will be impacted $6.16. Wastewater will be impacted $7.07 for a total impact of $20.71, which is 6.9% of their bill. And I think one of the other things we're trying to convey here, as you can see, there's little variations in the overall percentage that their whole bill is affected, and it's because it depends on which services they have and how much of those services that they're using. And then the last one is another small business. This one's in the Longwood Commercial District. This one's a restaurant, so they use a lot of all of the above. So there are 4 utility service customer. They're using about 4,700 kilowatt hours of electric, 170 CCF of gas, and then 13,000 gallons each of water and wastewater. All 4 of these are pretty high already. So their electric bill is $746.41. It will be impacted $23.27. Their gas bill is $274.92, will be impacted $17.79. Water will be impacted $15.74, wastewater $19.30. For a cumulative impact of $76.11, but their original bill is already $1,188. And so the main thing we're really trying to convey here, the impact is 6.4%. So it's a high number, $74, but that's 6.4% of their existing bill. And this is because their consumption is already very high. So that's it for me. I'm going to hand this back to Javi, and then I think Javi's going to wrap up and we'll get into questions.
Thank you, Rachel. Fantastic job. There's a couple things I'd like to mention. The first one is Rachel talked about efficiencies in one of the homes. I want to just let you know that we do have a WEOP program, a weatherization education outreach program, that helps you weatherize your home. And it's an application process, and we'd be happy to work with you to fill that out. And it's a program that we sponsor in partnership with the city of Fort Pierce. So I'd like to mention that. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Commissioner Gaines. Thank you for coming, sir. I appreciate that. So next, we'll move to questions. I'd like to tackle some of the questions, and so if I can't answer, the group will be here to help me answer any questions. Yes, ma'am?
One, as Rachel, the 2 homes that you showed, you said they were from the Lincoln Park area. Did I understand you say that?
Well-
One was Paradise Park and the other one was Lincoln Park.
Yes.
Do you have a comparison of Lincoln Park, Beach, South?
Sure. Yeah. Also, just as a housekeeping thing for questions, since we're being recorded, when you have questions next, totally fine. There's a microphone here that'll just help with the recording so that the whole audience can hear your questions and answers. Let me see. So we do have some other bills. I don't remember which ones I put there because I've kind of sort of been swimming in these bills for a few days. Do you mind hearing that? Sure. It's okay, so let's see what I got. We've got Paradise Park County address. This one's on South Beach. So this is a home, 1762 square feet, 1962 build. They have a pool, 3-bed, 2-bath. The electric is 1,229 kilowatt hours, and their water and wastewater is 4,000. So their electric impact will be $5.09. Their water impact will be $7.05, and their wastewater impact will be $8.30, for a cumulative impact of $20.44, or 8.2%. See what else we got here. Another Paradise Park, near Denver. Okay, so that's the one I have on this deck for South Beach.
That one has a pool.
This one has a pool, yeah. I think,
There was another one that had a pool.
yeah. Let's see. Yeah. But the pool, is there another question I can help answer maybe, or something beyond just a South Beach example?
No, I just want to see in terms of where you were showing
Sure.
the area in relationships with other sections of our city.
Sure. Does this help? Or would you like, I'm trying to think, so we've got this one is another Paradise Park, South Beach, Paradise Park, near Dan McCarty Middle School.
Stay at that one right there.
Save this one, okay. So this one is an all utility customer. They, 3-bed, 2-bath. They are also using quite a bit of water and wastewater and quite a bit of gas. Their electric is $6.49. Their gas is 30 CCF, and water and wastewater is 7,000 gallons. Their electric impact is $2.71. Their gas impact is $4.38, and the water and wastewater is $9.72 and $11.96, for a total impact of $28.71 or 11.2%. And this one is $28.78 largely because of the kind of high water and wastewater usage here.
And if there's anybody who specifically would like to look at their bill, we're more than happy to provide this template for your specific home. So,
Yes.
I hope that answers your question, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, sir. If you don't mind coming up to the mic.
Yeah, I was basically thinking that what we were talking about was moving the wastewater and water treatment plant. And I guess it wasn't really explained very well that we're talking about an overall rate of all the utilities.
Yes, sir.
So just in terms of the wastewater only, I would like you all to kind of focus in on that and kind of just let us know what impact that will be having on the utility bill, not the gas and the electric,
Yeah.
which is good,
Really?
but it wasn't really explained well that it's going to be an overall rate
Yep. Yes, sir.
hike. And so we were in my mind, we were speaking about moving the plant and how would that impact
Yes, sir.
the rate. Now I'm seeing that we're talking about not only the wastewater, but the electric, the gas, and whatever other utilities.
It's the four utilities.
Yeah, so I think it would be a good idea to kind of, well, I guess it's retrospect at this point, but the theme was moving the wastewater plant. Now, the rates on these other utilities, are they going to be applied to moving the plant as well, or is it just the water that and the wastewater that will be applied to moving that plant?
That's a very good question, sir. A couple of very good questions. The first thing, to answer your last question, electric and gas rate adjustments will not be used for relocating the wastewater plant. Those rate increases are specifically associated with rising cost and projects that we have for those systems. The electric system, we're doing an AMI project, an automated meter infrastructure project. We're replacing the old meters that we have with newer meters that can tie to our technology, so that we can increase our efficiencies with the electric system. The gas increases are specifically related to system expansion outside of our existing boundary. We're looking to go west over by the Wave Garden to the south and to the north for the future development off of NGO Road. So we want to claim more territory so we can increase our customer base. The more customers we add to our system, it'll help us keep costs low because it's a lower per unit cost the more customers that we add. Water and wastewater, we are also looking at system expansion for water and wastewater. And a portion of the rate increases will be going to the water wastewater expansion, and the other half will be going to the wastewater plant. And I think, Rachel, you're going to hit on that real quick?
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at, this is the all utility customer. So this is let me back up 2 seconds. The plant and our infrastructure is aging infrastructure. So we're looking at expansion, we're looking at replacing some of the older infrastructure. These are things we have to do no matter what we do. In addition to those things that we have to do no matter what we do, we are talking about moving the wastewater plant. So the water and wastewater rate adjustments are about half and half. So if this is $6.15 on the water, half of that is for the wastewater plant, and the other half is to do the expansion, the maintenance, the replacing of old infrastructure. So we're looking at the same thing for wastewater. If the wastewater is $7.07, about $3.50 of that is for moving the wastewater plant, and about $3.50 of that is for replacing the old infrastructure and or expanding so that we can get more customers. And that's true just across the board. So this one, same thing. Water impact is $6.16. So half of that is going to moving the wastewater plant. Half of that is going to the replacing old infrastructure or putting in new infrastructure to expand. And the same thing on the wastewater. Does that help, or are there more details I can provide to?
No, that pretty much explains it. I just never heard, I just coming forth that we were talking about an overall rate increase for all the utilities. And it seems like the dominant theme was here moving the wastewater treatment plant, and that's how our rates, that's what would be affecting the rates. And now I'm hearing that it's all the utilities, you have to do what you have to do, but that wasn't conveyed, at least I didn't hear it that way.
Sure, and I'll say, I think, if I may, that's why we're here. We're trying to get better at this. We're trying to communicate with you as best we can all the different things that are going on here. The wastewater plant is the biggest project that FPUA has ever undertaken in a single project like this. So for us, it's also the third time now that we've tried to move it. as a utility company in a city. So the kind of dominant theme or conversation here has really been, in our minds, the wastewater plant. There is a lot more going on than just the wastewater plant, though, and so we're all here. So the whole leadership team is here so that we can answer all of the questions because there is a bit more.
And I'd like to take a second to just mentioned earlier that we talked about a 50-year window when we're looking at utility systems. So we've been talking about these electric and gas expansions for quite some time, and this wastewater plant for quite some time. In addition to that, the wastewater expansion. So we have an opportunity right now because of our good bond portfolio, FPUA's good credit rating, and the low interest rates to be able to borrow the money for all of it to minimize the impact to our customers at that low interest rate. So that's why we the stars were aligned, so to speak, so that we can do this all at one time, borrow the money that we need at the lowest possible interest rate, because that all directly impacts the customer. And I'd like to take just a quick second for the wastewater expansion project. Bo's going to hit on our low pressure system, which I think would be interesting because we've had some of those questions at the last town hall meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So as part of the money that we're bonding, we're also bonding some money for some water and wastewater expansions. So that'll bring the water and wastewater infrastructure in neighborhoods that don't currently have it. The water system is much larger than the wastewater system. The wastewater has challenges, a little more than the water system does, for sure. And the new program that we have is what's called a low pressure sewer system. These are the little small pump stations. I don't know if anybody's familiar with down in Port St. Lucie, the little stations that they have in each of the houses. So by doing that, we're able to bring the wastewater infrastructure into more neighborhoods at a much lower cost than doing a conventional gravity system with the manholes and the other downhill pipes in the street. That's very cost prohibitive. As well as that, on that program, we have some very attractive finance options and some lease options on that. They keep those costs low. So basically, the utility will spend the money to put the pipes in the ground, and then whenever your septic system fails, instead of having to rebuild a new septic system, you could hook up to the wastewater system, and it's right about the same money, or actually a little bit less, and you get to finance it instead of having to come up with $8,000 or $9,000 to rebuild that system. You can put down around $1,200 and just make a small payment every month on it. So it's a lot easier for people that are challenged. I mean, you come up with $8,000 or $9,000 in that situation is kind of challenging. So.
Well, I live off of Airport Road. Mm-hmm. I get city water, but I have a septic tank. Mm-hmm. And I called Fort Pierce Utilities last year about getting city sewer, and they told me no.
So are you right on Airport Road?
I'm right off of Airport Road on Seneca Avenue.
Okay, so you're still a bit off. So that neighborhood is on the list to put the low pressure sewer in there. There's about 15 different neighborhoods that are on the list, and they're selected by, there's quite a few factors that go into doing the order of those neighborhoods. So I'm not exactly sure how far on the list that particular neighborhood is, but it's definitely on the radar to get the low pressure sewer in there as well. So that'll be available to you. And the idea is to take this money that we're borrowing with these bonds to do the expansions, and then that creates a better customer base, and we can use that money to then keep expanding into other neighborhoods with the goal of getting it to our entire service territory. We want water and sewer to our entire service territory.
So,
yes, ma'am.
So it's to piggyback off what the gentleman said. So it's part of the increase in rates to help pay off not only moving the wastewater plant, but to also help to pay off the grant and the loans over a period of time. I don't know how long it will be, 50 years maybe, that each resident who gets city utilities would be responsible for paying a portion of that. And is that where the rate increase comes from?
Yes, ma'am. So that's a good question. The bond that we're borrowing is a 30-year bond. Very typical in the municipal world to do a 20, 25, 30-year bond. We're doing a 30-year bond because we're including the cost of relocating the wastewater plant, which is a larger portion of the money. So you mentioned grants. we are pursuing every possible grant we can in order to help reduce costs in the future for any additional cost for the plant, also to help reduce cost of the plant. And the intention here, or the hope is that we get so much grants that we can help reduce these rate increases, but we have to start at the beginning. We have to get grants to help offset some of the costs. So we are looking at grants to help reduce our costs, which ultimately results in the impact to the customer. Yes.
And you mentioned the area that you're talking about. If we have already been annexed into the city 7 years ago, but we're still on septic, will we have to then incur almost the same price as someone who might live outside of that geographical area? I'm in Paradise Park. So will we in Paradise Park have to incur almost the same assessment as someone that might live near way out west?
Okay, that's a good question. So I'm going to go to the bill real quick. The increases that we're doing are based on your consumption. So everybody will pay the same unit rate, right? So the unit rate will go up for everybody. We have to charge the same unit rate to all of our customers. And I think what you may be talking about is maybe those who live inside or outside the city, the utility tax.
I think she's talking about going from septic to sewer.
Yes. So yeah, you would. So your question is, I'm sorry, I missed your question.
My question is, we were annexed about 6 or 7 years ago, which under the charter, we should have been placed in position to receive sewage, is my understanding. But yet we're still on septic.
Right.
So I'm saying once this process is completed, will we then, who are in Paradise Park, pay almost the same price as somebody that might be west of us that's also getting the septic as a preliminary process where we should have gotten it already?
So basically, there's two parts to the cost of the sewer system expansions. The first cost is putting the pipes in the street, and the utility is going to pay for that. So there is no assessment to the residents for that. And then as far as actually connecting to it, when you purchase the grinder pump station and all of that, it's exactly the same cost for anyone that would connect to it. But the original cost to make it available to the home, that is no cost to the residents. The utility is paying for that.
Good question. I think they were talking about MSBU.
Is that possible? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but there is no assessment like an MSBU was. So,
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The numbers you came up with in these examples, are they actual estimates on what we will be paying, or is it something that still has to be determined based on what the companies charge for actually doing the work?
Right. So the answer is the numbers here are exact numbers for that consumption for that bill. So does that answer your question?
No. I mean, once is, I guess more or less, I can understand that being exact for the electric and stuff that, it's gonna be a rate increase. But as far as moving the wastewater treatment plant, have you gotten the bids on how much that is gonna cost?
we are very close to getting a concrete number on that. The design team has been going through all the different processes of the plant to narrow that number down. The number that we're using right now is 100 million total for the plant. It may be a little bit less than that. It may be a little bit more than that. The wild card there is the grants. Ms. Tennant has been really pushing very hard on the grants. The more grants that we get, the lower we can keep the amount of, the actual cost of the plant to the residents.
And so with that, the number she showed today is based on a bill of $100 million.
That's correct.
That's correct, yes.
And those are numbers that will be voted on Monday.
Yeah.
So this is what's happening on Monday.
Yeah. Commissioner Gaines, you had a question, sir?
I would like you guys to explain exactly what this vote is on Monday? Why we're having this vote, what's that May 24th date?
Thank you.
If you haven't done it, so we're not sitting here just thinking it's a vote on these bills, but what's exactly why we're having a vote on Monday? Why you guys are coming to us on Monday for a vote? Explain to the public why and what is really going on with the rates, with the grants, with the bills. That's what I'd like to hear.
Yes, sir. Good question. So, the rates have to be in place, have to be in effect before we borrow the money, right? It's like you have to be able to, buy the home with based on the job that you have now, right? So, in very similar fashion, we have to have the rates in place in order to be able to go out and market the bonds for us to be able to borrow. If we get the rate approved on May 16th, Monday, this coming Monday, what that'll do is it'll lock in our interest rate on May 24th. That's our target date. And the idea there is to lock it in before they increase, because it is where we are playing. It's a race against time. And every point, 0.1% is $100,000. It's a number. It's an increased cost to our customers. So we're trying to get these rates in front of the city commission for them to vote, so that we can borrow this money to do the system expansion and cover the cost of relocating the plant. And if it's approved on Monday, about a week, 8 or 9 days later, we're going to lock in the rate for that loan. And we're trying to lock in that rate as low as possible. Any other thing?
Yes. Can you hear me without the mic? Bobby, thumbs up, yes. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to back up a couple of steps beyond that. I'm not sure if we're making assumptions here about what's in our head that we failed to convey. So I'm gonna try to reach what Commissioner Haynes is aiming for here. So on Monday, we are coming to the City Commission to ask them to approve rate increases on the 4 different utility services that we offer. Those rate increases vary depending on the utility service that we're looking at. The reason we are doing this is because we are going to borrow money as a bond. And we need to borrow money as a bond in order to pay for a certain number of projects. Some of the projects are the expansion projects for gas, water, wastewater. Also the AMI project, and AMI, which is the automated or advanced metering infrastructure, is very common advanced technology that exists for utility companies now that lets them be more efficient. So in our case, we don't have AMI yet, not too much. We have a little bit of it. We're trying to finish up our AMI installation. When we don't have it, we have to walk from house to house to do meter reading, for example. When we have automated infrastructure, it's more efficient because we can use the computer to read the increases and or the changes in the use in utility services. So we're looking at borrowing money to pay for AMI, to borrow money to pay for expansion projects, which will help us increase our customer base, which the more customers you have, the more you can spread out the cost of running your utility company, which is good for all of us. And since we were there anyway, looking to borrow money to do these important utility projects that are necessary no matter what we do, we also had a very, very low interest rate. We have a very low interest rate because we are very highly rated as a company. We have an A+ rating with one of the companies, one of the credit rating companies, and we have an A rating with one of the other credit companies. So what this means is that when we borrow money, we're looking at about 3.5% interest, which is very, very low. Since we're there, we need to borrow money to do these projects. We have a very big project, the wastewater plant, that we want to get off of the island and that we need to pay for. We're borrowing the money to pay for that too. And that's what the vote is about. The vote is to increase the rates so that we can show that we can afford to borrow this money. If we don't make the rate changes, we will not be eligible for the bond to pay for these projects. One of the most important things, which we haven't really touched on too much, but I'm about to jump into, is this is one of 2 paths that we are taking at the same time. So we have to show that we can repay the loan or the bonds in order to receive the bonds, otherwise they won't issue it. But at the same time, we're going to look for money at government agencies, many different government agencies, Congress, state government, to help us pay for moving the plant. The more money that we're able to get from either as grants or as government appropriations, the better positioned we will be to pay back those bonds faster, which will help us as we're moving forward looking at our rates. And that could look like a number of different things in the future. We really don't know until we know what kind of money we can get. But like Mr. Hutchinson was saying, we're pushing really very hard to get those money allocations as well. Have I done the 2,000 foot view?
Yes.
Excellent.
She's pretty good. Thank you, Rachel.
Can I make one
Yes, sir.
quick point? So we've touched on the DEP telling us that we have to do something with the plant, right? We've touched on the fact that we have low interest rates right now, so this is an excellent time for us to go ahead and get this project done. But there's something else too. This plant, it's on the barrier island. You know, the sea level is rising. I don't know how long that's going to take before that's a big problem. But literally, one of these Cat 5 hurricanes, like the one that just decimated the Bahamas a couple of years back, if that came and sat on top of us, we would have a major problem at that plant just because of how vulnerable it is in the location of it. So it's everything's kind of lining up to do this right now because hurricane season is right around the corner, starts next month. And then the next year after that, eventually we are going to have a problem there. So if we can stay ahead of that, everybody's going to go, man, I am glad we moved that plant when we did, because we would have a major environmental issue on our hands. And it would be very, very expensive to do in an emergency basis versus being able to plan it and organize it and schedule it, take advantage of the interest rates we have now.
That's a very good point, Mr. Chin. Yes, sir.
How long will it take you to start and finish the construction plan?
So the construction of the plant itself will take about 2 years. Now, on a parallel path, we still have to get all the wastewater is flowing northeast. Right? It goes all downtown, then it gets pumped over to the existing plant. So all of those pipes have to be, routed to go the other way. Now, the good thing is, over the last 18 years, all the new infrastructure that's been going in the ground has been planned to go in that direction eventually anyway. So that helps a lot. But there's still a significant amount of work to do there. So you're going to have a couple years to build the plant. But during that time, we're going to be working on the other infrastructure that has to be done, all the other pipes and lift stations and such to get it going out there. And then there's going to be a period of time, which hopefully we can keep that condensed to about a year, that we have to operate both plants. You aren't able to just flip a switch and send it all over. You have to take a little bit of the flow, put it on, okay, that's fine. Grab another section, put it on, okay, that's fine. And finally, it would be taking the flows off the island. So you're looking, 3 years to 4 years before we actually have that plant offline and we can start the demolition over there.
Good question.
And you indicated in the information that was sent to the papers that this will also create more jobs.
Right. Yeah. So a couple of things. Somebody asked the question earlier. The development at the existing plant there'll be some kind of development there that'll have local jobs created there. In addition to that, one of our requirements for the contractor working on the plan is to hire as much local help support here locally to help us build the plant as well. So not only are we looking to give the property back to the city so they can develop it, but we're also looking at the construction of the plant using local, as much local contractors as we can to help us build it. Did I miss anything, though?
No, that's good. That's good. You have to think about the property over there. We're only talking about the FPUA property, but there's other private property that's right next to us that they're very anxious to do something with that property. The county has other property up on the inlet as well. So even if you did a very responsible mix of private industry and public use, there's still a very good tax base that could be there, and a lot of really good high-paying jobs could be created there in the construction of whatever happens there, and also going forward. I mean, these are all things that have to be, operated and managed. Anything that goes over there. So it'll be a very financially beneficial thing for our entire community And that's the money, those are the type of things that creates tax money. And the tax money is what rebuilds the roads. And we know we need to rebuild our roads. It's very obvious. So, that's what's going to help pay for it.
Any other questions? So I'd like to, take the opportunity. If we'll be here till to the end of our time, to the end of our allotted time. So if you want to have some one-on-one conversations, we're more than happy to do that. I'd like to take a moment to thank Bobby for his help today. Appreciate it. He's the guy in the back taking care of us and broadcasting this live and setting this up. So really want to thank him for that. And also I'd like to again thank Commissioner Gaines for joining us today and a very good question. And I'd like to thank you. This is an important project for FPUA and the city of Fort Pierce, the largest project in our history. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to move this project forward that we've been talking about for a very long time. And we hope we provide you enough information today to feel comfortable to provide some support or voice your concerns at the city commission. So if there's no other questions, again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. Thank the community, thank the FPUA staff, and thank the
Commissioner might like to say something.
Director, how do you want, we are streaming live, and there are a couple questions live. Do you want to ask?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought of that. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
All right. We have one from Ms. Patricia Dorn. We might have already answered this. It says, what timeline for work starting and rate increases to begin? What percentages is proposed increase? I think we've already answered that one. She also says that I live in a HOA neighborhood, budget approved in November for upcoming year. Board needs to determine if increase is needed for all homeowners' monthly HOA fee. Please provide what percentages will, please provide percentage increases will be for each utility and beginning timeline so we can determine budget. I think we've already explained that one.
So that might be a good one to have them contact us directly, so that we can figure a bill like this for that entire HOA. Because if they're basing a budget for the year on it, that's something we can do. Danny, do you?
I will mention that we advertised this. We sent letters to every single customer about this, these rate increases to include the HOAs and the businesses. So they have been notified since since May or March. We've been sending out notices.
I think the one-on-one would be good with.
Yeah, but we will still have one-on-ones. But just to answer the question, we did provide notice to our customers, but we'd be more happy to spend time with everybody that's here about your specific bill or anybody online that would want to reach out to us and we can help them.
All right, just got another one. I'll just read it so it's on the record. It says, if you're moving the plant just to sell it to developers instead of public access, this is yet another example of selling the town out for under us. Increase access to the waterfront residents should be the goal. I just put it on the record. The other one is saying is, please explain how acquiring these grants is extremely important. Grant funds don't have to be repaid. So that's another question.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yes. The idea behind the grant funds and the government appropriations is that there are government programs and government priorities that include paying for projects like this. So, for example, for us to be on this list of 10 wastewater plants that needs to upgrade or potentially move off of the waterway, we already know that the state of Florida is interested in us not being on the island anymore. There are funds available through programs like something called Resilient Florida. Last year, they issued $100 million in grant funding, which is a grant to whoever's receiving it. They split it up across different projects. You do not have to repay those. This year, they're issuing $500 million. So we just scheduled our first meeting with them. It will be in a couple of weeks so that we can begin building this relationship and showing them this is exactly the kind of project that your fund exists to help pay for. There are other similar funds that exist. These are government funds at the state or county or regional level that are meant to help our community avoid issues like the one Mr. Hutchinson was talking about, where maybe we have a hurricane and our wastewater plant is on the waterway. So we're looking at some environmental initiatives, and we're also, interestingly, looking at the location of the new wastewater plant. When we have the new wastewater plant, which is over on Energy Lane next to an existing power plant, we'll be able to use some of the gray water,
Reuse water.
reused water, for the cooling towers on the power plant, which just very, very basic. The power plant requires cooling because it can be very, very hot. Right now, they're using water from the aquifer. So the South Florida Water Management District is another organization that has funding available to support projects that reduce the use of aquifer water. And since we're putting our wastewater plant somewhere that can produce water that would eliminate the need or reduce the need for aquifer water, we have another organization that may be willing to help us pay for what we're trying to do. And so the whole idea here is to find as many of those organizations, government appropriations funding, which is politicians who have priorities that are important to them, to help us find funding to offset the cost of moving the plant. And those are not loans. There's not something we have to repay.
And I think that's a very good point. Not only are we going to be champions for getting those grants, we'd love for you guys to also be champions with us, to be able to talk to the legislators and say, hey, this is what our community needs. We really want you to support us with these grants or these government appropriations. So the more you know about our project, the more we'd love to share with you, the more you can champion that with us, with those elected officials.
Yeah, phone calls, emails, whenever this next cycle starts up, we're gonna make that available to everybody. So call up the representative. You know, hey, I'm such and such, I live in Fort Pierce, this is important to us. Obviously, we can use all the help we can get. We appreciate your support, and many calls, it does a lot. It really helps push them in the right direction. Because if they don't know what the people are thinking, how can they vote?
And I just thought about it right now. We can try to work on some talking points that we can use so that you can use. You can pull that down and you can have some talking points that we've been able to provide you with some data, so that you can talk about specifically how this impacts you as a rate customer and a utility in the community. So we can do that as well. We'll probably do something like that on our website. We can try to do some outreach.
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan. Okay. Yes, sir.
Kind of off another subject somewhat. You mentioned earlier that, of course, you're a nonprofit, and the monies that you make, along with investing in the organization, you transfer some of it over to the city.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? Do you all have any say in how the money that you transfer over to the city will be used, or is that strictly on the commission?
Yeah, the money transferred to the city, we don't have any control of how that's used. That's part of their budget, and they control that themselves. So that's a short answer.
All right, 2 points. Said I was gonna be quiet today, but let me come. Answer your question, when that transfer is done, it's at a city hall meeting. So, it's not done behind the scenes, it's at a city hall meeting, so, and it's on the agenda that is published before it's done. So I welcome you to come at the city hall meeting next time it's done and ask the same question and have your voice be heard, what we're gonna do with this money. So, all right. Second point I want to make, Rachel, is we asked everybody to talk to our state people, reach out to our federals, reach out to our senators, reach out to our senators and all of these guys that are up in DC. Get on their phone. Don't care if you voted for them or not. Don't care if we don't like their policies. The one thing I've learned is everybody that's in Tallahassee, everybody that's in DC, representing this area, wants that lagoon protected.
That's right.
So if we blow their phones up, the more money that we can get in from feds or the state or whatever, it goes back to lowering that bond. If they're proof of that bond, it comes back to us. So help me, help everybody get on the phone, and let's call them. So
I think that's a very good point, Commissioner Gaines. Thank you. That's a very good point. As many champions as we can find, we ambassadors that can come with us. We ask you, we ask you to join us. So, are there any other questions?
Anybody else still hungry? I know we got a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers back there.
I'd like to thank Mike and Stacy. Yeah, Mike and Stacy. They were on the grill for a couple hours here, so really appreciate it, guys. Okay, so again, thank you very much. We'll be here for another, I think, about another 45 minutes or so. We'd love to have some one-on-one conversations with you to answer any questions that you have about your specific bill. Again, thank you for coming to this event, and thank you to the Incubate Center and the staff here. So, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Yes, ma'am.